Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The Chinese foreign minister called the Canadian ambassador based in Beijing and warned him to release the CFO of the major telecom company, Huawei, who was arrested on the desire of the United States under an agreement that Canada has with USA, that those absconders, those criminals who are wanted by either country would be extradited. The criminals in USA to Canada and criminals in Canada to USA. But whether a criminal or not, this lady, who is the daughter of the founder of Huawei and is a CFO, was arrested for extradition. And the Chinese foreign minister calls the Canadian ambassador and threatens him that either release her or face the consequences. This dangerous statement was glossed over by the government. Any self-respecting government should have told Chinese to get the hell out of there is an internal affair, and the courts would decide whether she is to be extradited or not. The justice system in Canada is not subservient to the political system. Let's be very clear. And this demand of China was an insult to the Canadian judiciary and the sovereignty of Canada as an independent, sovereign country. And no sovereign country should take such things lightly, such threats face the consequences. As a matter of fact, just a few days back, the chief of Canadian Navy, General Jonathan Vance, had said that China is more dangerous to us than Russia is. But why is it that Justin Trudeau, while being very angry and annoyed with Russia, is all honey and treacle, cloyingly sweet to China? Is he not aware that President Trump recently in G20 meeting scored a major victory to protect his countrymen? He desired, and that desire was accepted by President Xi when he said that no fentanyl would be sent to USA. Fine. Chinese agreed. What about Canada? Fentanyl is coming to Canada from China and killing young people day in and day out, and we are quiet. The desire to have a free trade is good, but should it come at the cost of the life and health of our youth? No. Secondly, when the chief of defense staff, the country's leading soldier, General Vance, in an international security forum in Halifax says that Al-Qaeda and Islamic State are dangerous, but equally dangerous is Russia, and still more dangerous is China. He was very clear that there is a resurgence of the great power dynamics. And his statement was very clear. There is extreme concern about some nations, particularly China and Russia. Why is it that this admonition of the first soldier of Canadian Army is not taken lightly? And he's not the first one. In 2018, the National Defense Strategy was also clear, and General Mattis' statement was agreed to by General Vance. There is no denying the fact that there's a range of tactics China used to destabilize. And it doesn't fight a war in the traditional sense. It fights below the threshold of war. If you want to punch, where you are going to punch and how. That's a question of our age. Chinese tactics are different, they are novel and more disturbing. For example, in South Sea, they dumped landfill, tons of landfill to bring up tiny islands, which became the base of their expansion. And then they started buying real estate here in Canada, thereby building their base. Then they started sending drugs to destroy the country. And once it was clear that competition they create, and then they stop competition and conflict starts. So trade is followed by the flag. And then still we are quiet. Prime Minister Trudeau was very harsh with Putin. Okay, that's welcome. You have your principles, stand by them. But China has more than 1 million Muslims in jails. And while Trudeau is ready to welcome ISIS people with open arms, he has not said a single word about the Chinese incarceration of the Muslims. Yesterday in my article, I said that China is destroying all human rights. And this latest threat, whether we should take it lightly, that's a question. Look at what General Wong says. He says, look at opiate crisis, housing market in Vancouver, and money laundering. Apart from other insidious activities of China, we have been tolerating it. Why? Today, another new thing happened. CSIS, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Services, which is Canada's FBI and CIA combined, which is Canada's MI5 and MI6, which is Canada's Mossad and RAW, has warned the universities about the Chinese. They say the Chinese are trying to penetrate the universities. And can you believe it? Look at it. Between 216 and 218, 8,000 people died in Canada because of opiates sent by China. And we are quiet. The criticism of human rights violation resulted in our breaking the relations with Saudi Arabia, and they kicked our ambassador out. And we reciprocated, but we did not stop buying oil from them. China threatens our ambassador very clearly that either release the CFO of Huawei, which organization incidentally has ties with People's Liberation Army. And instead of taking this insult the way it should have been, we are quiet. I would have expected the foreign ministry to reject this request as an immediate response. But 24 hours have passed, and till now, the foreign ministry, the global affairs ministry, under Minister Freeland, has not even acted on this. Not only they have not rejected it, but they have not even protested against the language used. And it was not the foreign minister, it was the deputy foreign minister. So the very fact the protocol has been violated. The ambassador, in case he is to be summoned, should be summoned by the foreign minister, not by the deputies. And in protocol, the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs in China is equal to our Deputy Minister here. While Ambassador is above the Deputy Minister level. He is a cabinet level officer. And it was a foreign cabinet minister who is our ambassador in China, as a matter of fact. So this is an insult. They downgrade the protocol, summon our ambassador, and threaten him, release him. It's an insult, as I said, to the sovereignty of the country, and it also impinges on the judicial independence of the country. Why is it that we cannot say that the Xi regime is today responsible for incarnation of 1 million Muslims there? I'm not saying that they don't have a right to protect. They have a right. But my concern is that the same Canadian government, which goes hyper into ordinary things, a killing of one person, that is Jamal Khashoggi, is quiet about the incarnation of 1 million and killing of thousands of people. And our Minister of Security, Ralph Goodale, says that they are not going to block Huawei from doing business in Canada. So not only are they accepting the insult, but they are also permitting this branch of PLA to continue operating. In Ottawa of today, which is controlled by Trudeau, China is just another country, glamorous, full of pandas. But what David Mulroney, our former ambassador to China, says, where China differs is willingness to use its diaspora as its agents to interfere in the internal affairs. So we are permitting that to it. Imagine, in the elections, in 2006 alone, 10 Beijing-friendly politicians were elected in Canada. And they have such an influence that the government seems to have fallen under the influence of the foreign government. Why is it so? And then, Donald Trump appointed the president. Imagine, I'm giving you a situation. If Donald Trump appoints the president of American-Russian Business Council to head the transition team, all hell would break loose. But here, Prime Minister Trudeau appointed the former president of China-Canada Business Council, Peter Harder, as a senator, and now he serves as the Trudeau government's representative. So it's a clear case of subservience to China. We criticize Russia for annexing Crimea. What about Donbass? What about Tibet? What about their threat to Taiwan, whom they do not even recognize as an independent country? Why is it that we are quiet when China hacks National Research Council in Canada? We are all saying that Russia hacked DNC records. Fine, it's bad. They have no right to interfere. But has Peking right to interfere and hack NRC records, destroy its mainframe, scoop up enormous volume of private data, and in doing so cause millions of dollars in damage? This was not a Russian job. It was a Chinese job. And who did it? Huawei. The Huawei technologies, as I said, a branch of PLA, highly subsidized, is working as a mole here. It hasn't mattered that in recent days, the FBI, CIA, NSA, National Intelligence Agency have told clearly that Huawei phones which are being sold can be used to spy on their owners. Why are we not banning them here in Canada? And when the directors of CSIS warn the universities to be careful, even then our antennas don't start quivering. I remember meeting Charles Burton. He's a former diplomat and is associate professor now. And he said China is aggressively mobilizing pro-mainland ethnic Chinese in Canada. And they are lobbyists and politicians working here. So the Chinese have a much bigger footprint here than any other country has. Look at Russia. They are doing bad, but at least we know they are there. China is doing worse, and we are quiet. That's the unfortunate part. And on the other hand, US has taken action. German Vice Chancellor has said that they are going to take action. Australia, the Security and Intelligence Organization, has documented evidence and they have taken action. So why is it that Trudeau liberals are acting in such a naive fashion? I would not say that they don't care. I do not say that they are not patriotic. They are patriotic. But they are like pigeons who close their eyes when the cat is coming, particularly if the cat is to their liking. And that is the rub. Shall I say, cry the country, for the future doesn't appear to be that bright with China not being repelled and put in its place. There's a need today for Canada to assert its sovereignty, to tell them that we want trade, but not at the cost of our liberty, our freedom, and our self-respect. Tell them that we do not permit them to interfere in our internal affairs, that we do not permit them to cast aspersions on our judicial system, that we do not permit them to threaten us. If they threaten us, they can go to hell. Would Justin Trudeau do so? I dare him. Thank you.